Yo,
I went just old school classic with a t-shirt today.
can't go wrong with Voltron.
So how was your week, Paul? What did you
It's
do?
been busy. It's been busy.
How's Vegas? How's the World Poker, this World Series of Poker out there?
Beats the
Isn't that
shit
going
out of
on right
me,
now?
man. I don't pay attention to none of the shit that goes on out here. I could really care less. I walk through with like blinders on because I work in a casino. So when I go to work every day, I walk right past the slot machines, right past
Which casino are you
everything.
in?
What's that?
Which casino are you in?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say on the air.
Oh, good point. Good point. But it's not the horse.
Yeah, I don't
Not
want
the
to
horse.
dox myself, but
Is
but
the horse the horseshoe, right?
sure. Yeah, one of the 1,000 casinos in this city.
Well,
But
the horseshoe was where the World Series of Poker is being held. So I'm saying that you would know if you fucking worked there because it's either going. I think it's going on right now. As I've been watching some of it on YouTube.
I don't work. I don't work there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's yeah, I don't really I guess all of this city's charms, they're all lost on me. I really just don't I don't really care. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just immune to them.
How far are you from your old spot that you are in your new spot?
Not far, just a couple miles. So I'm not like in the hood, but kind of in the hood.
Are you as close to the sphere thing or farther away?
I kind of want to talk
Oh
to
yeah.
myself.
Oh, I live in fucking Willow Grove, dude. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, but don't.
Um,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying though. It's anyway. Yeah. So I'm in the city. I'm in one of the. It's not a bad area, but it's much better than where I was prior. That was definitely a bad area. That I was in prior to this, and it was really sad and eye opening to
all that the
experience.
shit, the things that I've seen about what happens inside the sphere, all those shows and stuff they do, it looks really cool.
I think it is. A lot of people rave about it. It looks kind of like an Epcot center, but for like for Vegas to me. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I,
the inside is like a super IMAX all around you.
I haven't been inside of it, but I have walked past the front of it a couple times on my travels.
You never seen a picture or a video of what happens inside the thing?
I've seen some of it, yeah, and a
Okay.
lot of the locals here are like, "Hey, man, it's really cool. You should go."
Yeah, I
And
think the Blue Angels did something in there, and I know like Fish had a good concert. So
oh
all
yeah,
the fish shit was on the ceiling. That would have been cool to go to.
sure. Yeah, like I said, I just don't really engage in many of the festivities here, or actually, I don't really engage in any of the festivities here. They don't really appeal to me. So
Oh, I had a question. Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
So I
Um,
was just gonna flip the subject unless you wanted to continue.
no, I had just a quick question before you get into whatever.
Sure.
With your video editing skills, can you do you know how to put like a symbol over somebody's head and like play the video? You know what I'm talking about?
A symbol? Yeah, you want me to
You know,
put like an arrow or something, or
no. Like if you played a movie clip, like where I was thinking about like Casino when Nicky's out there, he's like, I think he went batshit. You
Yeah.
know, so like if you put like the citizens on top of Ace's head, that's what I was thinking about. Like so Nicky's yelling at. It looks like the symbol over the face. You know, they do that shit with like Trump or whoever when
Yeah,
they
so you
make
want me to take like a picture of somebody's face and like superimpose it over somebody else's face? Is that what you're
and then
asking
have
me?
it play in the video. Yeah, but instead of being somebody's face, it would have been like the ATF or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
What you're saying is that somebody put Eddie's face there, and it's really somebody else's reflection? Come on, that's bullshit.
Bullshit? Where have you been, Lieutenant Smith? You don't think video can be altered?
What you're saying is that somebody put Eddie's face there, and it's really somebody else's reflection? Come on, that's bullshit.
I had I watched the NATO shit before Biden. I was like, this guy been fucking batshit.
And what the fuck are you doing on TV anyhow? You know, I get calls from back home every fucking day. They think you went batshit.
Did you see on Twitter the dude who in Philly in the convenience store? He there was like a crowded 7-Eleven and he nutted on some girl.
What?
Yo, it's all over. I don't want to put it on this because it's YouTube, but it's all over Twitter.
No, how did I see that? Because I've been on Twitter a couple times already.
And Meek Mill put out like a bounty, like a $2,000 payment if you rat the guy out. 'Cause I had a decent picture of him.
No
But
kidding.
the videos of the girl, and it's already after it happened, and she's chasing him. She's like, he nutted on me. He nutted on me.
That's disgusting and kind of
I
funny
know.
at the
You
same
know,
time.
that's wild. In Philly,
Guys, please don't do that.
it's some wild shit.
Even though I'm laughing about it now, please don't do that. don't put your don't put your fluids on other people, please. Thank you.
All right. The other one I saw on Twitter is it's one of the cop videos. I think I put it. I sent it to you. Did you put it up?
Was I supposed to? Did you tell me to?
I sent you 2 clips to the email.
All right, hang on. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, you are the worst engineer.
Okay. So you sent it. You sent it via message, share a post.
Email, motherfucker. Email. I always
Oh,
send you
come
shit.
on, man! You can make me go pull the email up and stuff.
I thought you would be ready. I don't understand why this is so hard.
Well, yeah. If I know that you got something from the email that you want me to pull up, then I pull it up.
I sent you a text message that I sent things to the email.
Okay. Hang on. Let me find it real quick. So, oh, the cop clip. I got it. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. It's 1 minute and 33 seconds. You want to play the whole thing?
Yeah. Or play it until play it.
All right, let's play the whole thing. Hang on.
Which is wild.
Here. What's your address?
He's got a 6-year-old kid in the car.
Okay, she can come out here if she wants. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you take a step out and come towards me. We're gonna try and run your name a different way and see if I can find it pop up some other way. Okay, for sure. You can put the phone down now. You're gonna kill me, bro. You're gonna kill me, bro. You're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me, bro.
Oh my God.
Right. Hold on. So they all fall out and the little kid's in the car.
Shots fired! Shots
Oh
fired!
my
Let's get in
God.
the car still.
Isn't
They're
that
trying to
crazy?
kill me!
And he was hanging on the door that entire time.
Shots fired!
Yeah, then he shot the dude while he was getting dragged.
Well, the guy tried to kill him. I mean, I don't know how fast they were going, but
I'm impressed. He was getting dragged and pulled out the gap.
Come here! Come here! Come here! Come here, baby! Come here! I got you! I'll get it! I got it! I'll get it!
She's asking for it. I forgot about
okay?
that.
Yes,
Okay, you're okay.
my
All right,
phone.
that's it.
You're okay.
My phone.
We get some more tires over
My
to
phone.
Stay right here for a second.
Did you get my phone?
Radio
wow.
Rush AMR to Wyoming.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And all the kid wanted was her phone. I thought that was funny.
It is, and it's kind of sad at the same time. That's where
She's
we
probably
are.
She's probably calling her mom or some shit.
Yeah, I get it, but it's also kind of sad. Like in this, day and age, like something seriously tragic happens like that, and your child, you're only concerned with your phone. Like, not where's my dad, where's my mom, where's. Anyway, go ahead.
It's not crazy if you're used to shit like that.
I guess it's crazy to me because that would be the last thing on my mind. But then again, it's a kid, so
I'm saying, like, what's the word?
Sex marriage.
Like if you see this, like you
It's a
like
sin.
You think it's a sin? So you
you're
think
not
I'm
immune
sinful?
to it, but you're like you
What's
grow
that?
up with seeing
think
some
I'm
kind of shit all the
sinful
time.
because I'm
Like,
married
if
to
you
a
worked
man?
at a
Yeah.
You
at
do.
your dad
Yes,
was
you're
like a
sinning.
butcher,
You
you'd
are
be
in a
okay with
sinful
cutting up
relationship.
animals.
I don't
and
believe-
shit,
I
and
actually
your
don't
dad
believe
was a hunter,
marriage
you
can
know,
be
you know what I
between two
mean?
men,
Like you
so I
grew
don't-
up and you were
What do you think about?
sorry. There was a clip playing in the background for no reason. It was on another tab. I don't even know how it got started.
I can't think of the word. I'm fucking right now. You know what I'm trying to say?
I kind of missed what you were saying because I was trying to find out where that clip was coming
Mm-hmm.
from. Sorry, I'm sorry.
If you are used to seeing trauma like that all the time, that's not really trauma. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if
you
you're
could be
used-
like desensitized to stuff for sure.
desensitized. That's the word.
Yeah,
God,
for sure.
I feel like a schmuck right now. Desensitized. Should write that in the blackboard 10 times.
Well, I mean, Game of Thrones, quite frankly, was responsible for desensitizing me to maybe a lot of things.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah. Like two dudes kissing. It was when that show first kind of dropped. It was kind of I never had an issue with it. But
I watched. I didn't like the show, but Queer as Folk used to be on Showtime, or was it HBO? Anyway, it was on one of them.
I never saw that, but you know, it really kind of helped me like be more familiar and like, you know, I was again, it was never a problem, but it was more like, you know, you see two guys kissing, it was kind of strange to me. But you know, after watching that show, you know, now I'm just totally desensitized to it. So I'm like, yeah, so what? Two guys are kissing, big deal.
Watch Oz? The show Oz?
No, I know you love that show. I've seen episodes of it.
Louis, you want to get desensitized? There's a lot of dick in that show. A lot of dick.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because that's the other thing, like Game of Thrones again, just, you know, stuff like that. Just totally desensitized to it now. Yeah, big deal. It's a dude walking around naked. He has a penis. So what? You know. Not that it was ever a problem for me, but like, you know, before that I'd probably be like, oh my God, there's a dude walking, you know, whatever.
Isn't there dick in Any Given Sunday when Cameron Diaz walks into the locker room after the win?
I'm sure there is, but it was, you know, like one scene in a movie versus like repeated, you know.
I'm just saying.
So I mean, anyway, speaking of things like that, so Candace Owens,
I have that on my list. I was about to say we can transfer into that. Did you see her with Don Lemon?
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about it. So
go ahead.
I haven't seen the whole debate yet between the two of them. Have you?
No, I only saw I heard two things, but I don't even know if one's real. I only saw one real clip.
So the clip I want to share is the brief one that she had with Don, and it's basically her religious.
Sinner? The Sinner one? Sinner? She
calls him Sinner? Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So before we started, I do want to say that I agree with Candace on, God, almost everything. And I really, not only agree with her, I love most of what she says. This is one of those areas.
Play it. And then
let me show you. But yeah, this is one of those areas where I can't get behind her.
I'm sure I have a different opinion. Or I can at least play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I know you love playing devil's advocate. But yeah, let's play this real quick.
What do you think about same-sex marriage?
It's a sin.
You think it's a sin? Yeah. So you think I'm sinful?
What's that?
You think I'm sinful because I'm married to a man?
Yeah.
You do?
Yes, okay. You're sinning. You are in a sinful relationship. I actually don't believe marriage can be between two men. So I don't.
What do you think about same-sex marriage?
So yeah, that's just the clip of her.
Let me do my first. I think I can get to my point quicker. I think that one, I don't think that the government should have any right to tell who could get married. I don't think the government should be involved in all. I don't think you should pay a tax to get married. I don't think there should be benefits to being married on your taxes. I don't have you to register to get married and do all that legal shit, because marriage is like a religious thing to me. Who is the government to say to bless your, you know what I mean, to say your marriage to whoever you want is a sin or not? You know what I mean? That's how. If you're Catholic, if you're Protestant, if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, whatever, that's a religious thing. So in your world, if you want to marry whoever the fuck you want, do it, because I don't think the government should be involved in telling you you can and can't get married to somebody. And because Candace Owen says it's a sin in her religion, it doesn't mean it's a sin to somebody else. I don't give a fuck what that bitch says. I mean, I agree with her on some stuff, but I was going to say my actual comment before you brought that up. I was going to transfer to it. I said Candace Owen went full Jesus.
Yeah, she recently converted. Her and Russell Brand both, actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, she's been a little too godly for me.
She's gone very godly. And again, I don't have an issue. I think everybody should have the right to worship whoever they want to worship, and obviously we have freedom of religion here. But yeah, I disagree with her here. I'm also not a Christian, so I don't identify with it being a sin, but yeah, I think two people should be able to get married, and like you said, I don't think the state has any right to tell two people that they can't be wed,
What do you if you had to say you were if you had to check a box, I mean, technically you're raised Catholic because I went to church with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to check a box now, what would it be? Anything?
Well, I don't like to identify as anything.
I feel you. I'm just saying what direction.
If you were looking from the outside in and you wanted to kind of pinpoint my religious beliefs, most people would probably say I'm Gnostic.
Break that down. I forget what all this shit means.
Gnostic is like the belief in like a higher conscious, right? Like it's not like a worship of a god. It's like we are gods essentially, like all of us, and we all have the ability to become gods.
Okay.
So it's, but again, I don't even fully like, I don't align with any like particular group or community. I'm Paul. Hi. I mean, that's
When you pray, if you pray, I mean, sometimes you're like, God, I need the Giants to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who you talking?
if I was going to pray, I don't. But if I was going to,
Pray. You don't need to get on your knees and pray to Jesus.
No, you could just have a conversation with whomever,
Exactly.
just in your bedroom,
Do you think you're talking to a group of gods like Zeus and everybody?
Definitely not Zeus. He wouldn't hear my prayers anyway. But
being sarcastic.
So yeah, if I was going to do that, like if I was going to try to commune with a higher power, whether it be through prayer or whatever, it would most likely be Yeshua, aka Jesus. I don't want to call him that because that's not his name. But Yeshua or Enki, or even Thoth from ancient Egyptian mythology. I have a lot of information on all three of those characters.
Are they all Jesus?
Possibly. I don't know for sure.
Close enough for argument's sake.
So they're either all Yeshua, aka Jesus, they're all related in some way, or they all just simply went to the same damn school and got the same damn education. Because all three of them, when you read through their teachings, are strikingly very similar.
And it was all the same time period?
No, it's over the course of thousands of years, right? Because Jesus was 2,000 years ago, right? Thoth was 3,500 BC, 4,000 BC, 5,000, somewhere in that.
What civilization is that?
That is the ancient Egyptians. And then Enki is way before both of them. I don't even know how old Enki is. He could be, 10,000 years old. He could be 1,000,000 years old, or all of the above. But he's been around for a long time.
Where do they first find the symbol for Enki, whatever the hell it is?
So Enki, I believe, is first mentioned in the ancient Sumerian tablets, which were found in 1930s. I think in Jordan or Iraq or somewhere over there they found them.
Little baby Jesus in a manger?
Yeah, I like to picture my baby Jesus in. Yeah.
I like to think of Jesus like with giant eagle's wings and singing lead vocals for Leonard Skinner with like an angel band. And I'm in the front row and I'm hammered drunk.
Hey, Cal, why don't you just shut up?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think I'm in that ballpark. I have faith. You know what I mean? Like a higher spirit or power or whatever.
I have faith too, yeah. And I've been an agnostic for the longest time until recently. So yeah, I absolutely do have faith now.
If agnostic is what's agnostic then?
Agnostic is so agnostic means you don't believe in a higher power, but you acknowledge the fact that one could exist, right? So I didn't believe in God, but I'm not saying that God isn't real. I haven't seen him, I haven't met him, I haven't interacted with him. So a lot of people confuse being agnostic with being an atheist. An atheist means there's nothing that, nothing, period. I don't believe it, nothing that you tell me is going to make me. Agnostic is more of an open-minded, I don't think it exists, but maybe. Are you still there? We'll have to edit this out. You froze.
Your name is pronounced Algar, right?
Okay. Wayne!
You'll be fine.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know how far you want to go with this, or if you want to just flip the topic.
I was just curious. I'm not trying to get into Jesus and shit right now.
Heard. But yeah, anyway, it's not his actual name. He actually wasn't given that name until later. Until later on, after his death. Likely his name, his real name was when he was walking around, alive and all, was most likely Joshua. Go ahead.
Being a carpenter and shit?
Yeah, being a carpenter. That looks like the cup of a carpenter.
So then is the book of Joshua his or another Joshua?
No, I think it's just another Joshua. So, but yeah, he would have had a common name, more
just
like Joshua.
Like Mike, just throwing a lot of Joshuas out there.
Yeah. So, well, let me just explain it real quick, and then I'll leave it alone. Okay. So, just because it's so interesting, right? So Jesus, right? First of all, the letter J doesn't exist. Actually, the letter J wasn't invented until I don't even remember what it was, 500-600 years ago or something like that.
Does my name start with a J, yo?
It does.
So I don't.
But your
My
name wouldn't have existed in that category. So yeah, Joshua was most likely started with an I or something like that.
Name of God. Jehovah. But in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah begins with an I. J.
I don't know. There's a whole lot of scholars that know way more about this stuff than me.
Also different languages.
Yeah, of course. So likely this wasn't in English. This was either in likely Latin, Hebrew, or Greek, or possibly all three. Depending on who was doing the writing. But the other thing that's interesting about the name Jesus, right, is the last two letters, the US, right? US is Roman, right? Anything that ends in US, Marcus, like Marcus Aurelius, for example, right?
Mhm.
It's a masculine Roman name. Now, back in Jesus's time, Yeshua's time, Joshua's time, whatever, they were oppressed by the Romans, right? What's that?
Call them bastards.
Yeah, they were oppressed by them, right? So for Mary to name her kid, right, her newborn son after, a name that's synonymous with her oppressors, it wouldn't really make any sense, So it would kind of be rather silly, don't you think? It would be like a German person in the 1950s naming their kid Adolf, like would you do that? I'm sure maybe some people did that, but
There's a couple of Adolfs out there. Probably sucks growing up though.
It would have sucked, absolutely, right? Like, and again, it's at the end of the day, it's just a name, but yeah. His name likely wasn't Jesus. It was likely Joshua. I can't say for certain, but
all right.
Anyway, interesting stuff.
Do you know who James O'Keefe is?
Yes. Why does he ring a bell? Wasn't he like a former general or something?
No.
Military guy?
He's like an undercover journalist. He was part of something and got fired, but now he does a lot of those like undercover videos where they're like out on a date with somebody who works at a company like Pfizer or Disney, and he gets them to release all the gossip.
Okay.
Like
is he like filming them secretly?
Yeah, he's like the person that works for him has like a camera on their chest, and they're like out at a bar or public place, always talking to somebody who works at one of these places. And he just had a big one at Disney. That's why I asked if you had seen it. It just came out today or yesterday or whatever.
Okay. So what was the?
I don't know. Babies, kids, and it's Disney children.
So are we talking about like the
moving children around
the circle? Yeah.
Yeah, the circle of children.
I've heard that.
Have you seen the Jim Brewer clip when he
about Dave
turns into the part of Pinocchio? You know the part of Pinocchio when he's about to go to Pleasure Island?
Yes.
And
I've seen it.
Wolf's like, what are you doing? He's like, nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm collecting stupid little boys. Stupid little boys? You know, the disobedient ones what play hooky from school. Oh. And I takes them to Pleasure Island.
Pleasure Island.
Pleasure Island? But the law. Suppose they... No. There's no risk. They never come back.
I always hated Pinocchio.
It was never my favorite film.
Yeah,
but
I like Jiminy Cricket, but I hated the fucking movie.
I always loved the whale part where they do the whole Jonas and the whale bit,
Yeah.
But yeah, even as a child, I always found the Pleasure Island thing rather disturbing, and now I find it even more disturbing, which is a shame. But
so I saw something today, and I forget what it was on, but they're trying to like blast it like it's new information. But it's old. So Jill Biden, you know how like when the president comes in, they play "Hail to the Chief," the Marine Corps band. She got the band to make up a song for her when she walks in, like entrance music.
Okay.
So I thought it was, it's like wrestling music. I appreciate that. She's like, if I want to walk into a room, I want you to play some music for me too.
Heck yeah, why not? A little entrance theme, hype up the crowd a bit,
Yeah, I'll give her a little bit of credit when credit's due.
When
Yeah, I mean, if it's a badass theme, it's a badass theme. You know, regardless of who's walking into it. I haven't heard it, so but I'm sure I will in the future.
Oh, I'm not sure how many of the. Did you watch any of the Joe Biden NATO thing today?
I only saw a couple of Joe Biden. I didn't even know that was going on. I only saw 2 clips.
Play the other video that I sent. He did a couple of things today because NATO is in DC. They're having a big ass conference. And his speech, I mean, for him, I think he did okay because he didn't die.
Like, was he actually making sense? Like,
No,
for most
not
of
a
it?
lot of it. He made it pretty good until like the second question. He started losing it in the questions.
Let's play it real quick because it's short.
He had a list of people who'd ask. Hold on, watch this.
Ready to talk. I'm not ready to talk to Putin. I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk. Is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin. I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk.
Same speech.
So he literally just contradicted himself.
Yeah.
So the video I saw is the one where he introduces Zelensky, and he introduces Zelensky as Putin.
As Putin. Yeah, but he caught himself.
He caught himself, but
I'll give him half credit. But if you watch the NATO speech, so he has the teleprompter or whatever, his notes down in front of him. So he does okay. And then he gets into questions, but then he's like, I have a list of who to ask. So he even says that out loud. And he's like, so-and-so from so-and-so. And he gets through her question or that person's question, okay. And then in the second question, he starts to fumble. And then kind of recovers, but he says some really dumb shit. He he says Vice President Trump one time.
I saw that.
He kind of goes off, and then like at the one point he like switches to gun violence somehow, and then he's like, children are getting killed. He like all of a sudden gets like loud and emotional for like 2 sentences, and then goes back down. And he says a lot of like, look, you know, look. Yeah, a lot of NATO good, Putin bad. We're going to do whatever. We're committed. They're committed. I put together a coalition, and then I did this. Like, there's going to be a lot of dumb shit that you're going to see on Twitter following tomorrow, or not. It's probably on now.
The other one I saw was this one. I'd like to share it real quick. I honestly have no idea what he's saying. People are claiming that maybe he just mixed up a word, which I'm not going to repeat, but I'm going to play it real quick.
Oh yeah. I heard this one.
What the hell?
Guided this alliance through one of the most consequential periods in its history. I realize, I was talking to your wife, I personally asked you to extend your service.
Did they edit
Forgive
that?
me.
No, that's.
And you put your guided this alliance through one of the most consequential periods in its history. I realize, I was talking to your wife.
All right, so I'm not. The one that I originally saw, it sounded like something else. Now, perhaps it's fake news. I don't know. Maybe somebody edited it. But
fucking your wife.
That's what I heard the first time. But maybe somebody just made that, because in that video, it clearly sounded like he said, "I was talking to your wife."
True.
But in the original clip I saw, it definitely sounds like, "And I was fucking your wife." And I don't know. I hope he said he was fucking your wife, because that's really funny. I mean,
there was a video or a clip or whatever. Like if you hear something and they tell you what to listen for, you'll hear it, and you can hear the same sound again, and it'll be something. It'll tell you it's something else. It sounds like a soccer chant, and it's like, did you hear Bart Simpson is gay? It's like, Bart Simpson is gay, and then it'll be like something else, and it'll be the same tone, but it sounds like something else. They prep you for what it is.
Oh wow, no.
I'm sure you can Google it. So I'll make a note and got to get it for next time or add it to the show.
Well, the brain's fascinating.
It sounds like a 5 seconds, like a European soccer chant. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like 1,000 people all in unison saying something, but it's almost like a rock the Casbah. They say rock the cat box.
Rock the Casbah. Yeah.
When they say something else, you hear that. So it's interesting. I guess it's one of those mind things.
It is, and the brain is really fascinating like that. I saw something the other day, and I wish I had bookmarked it so I could upload it. But it was like, and if I find it, I'll try to insert it later. It was like a this text, right? And it's nothing offensive. It just said like a sentence, right? And then it was like, by the way, you read that wrong. By the way, you read that wrong, right? And then I went back and looked at it, and yeah, like the words, like my brain just read them the way that I thought they were, but I read it entirely wrong.
Yeah,
And then the
it's
second
like
sentence and the third sentence.
And you never noticed there was a 7 in the third word or something.
Yeah, you never noticed it. And it's really remarkable how the brain just kind of like will skip over things and just, interpret it the way that it wants to interpret. At least at first glance, at first, the first time you hear it. So anyway, I don't know, Joe, so maybe he might owe you an apology. I don't know exactly what you said.
It doesn't matter. If it wasn't that
it
way,
doesn't.
sometimes, like I was talking to somebody, like the size of the media scandal that they covered for this guy, knowingly covered for this guy for a long time, and now they act like, oh, I wish someone had told us. You know what I mean?
Well, again, we were talking about that, what was it, last episode? Where like all of a sudden, people are like, oh my God, Joe's not well.
Oh yeah,
you're
right.
You guys just noticed this? I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. Somebody said earlier, I saw it post on Twitter, and somebody was like, Joe Biden messes up one thing and everybody jumps down his throat. Well, it's not one thing. If it was one thing, we would have just let it go. Here, at least most of us logical folks,
I'm not going to judge a man on one night.
On one night, he had one bad night. No, he says something stupid like every other week, or he says something incoherent like every other week. Yeah, if it was once in a blue moon, we all make mistakes, but this is not that. This is continuous.
Well, you want to talk about some government overreach?
Who doesn't want to talk about government
All
overreach?
Right, so the company, FedEx, the company, they made a deal with a company called Flock Surveillance. And Flock Surveillance has deals with law enforcement, and they specialize in automated license plate readers and video surveillance. So the cameras in FedEx trucks are going to be able to scan random license plates and feed that info back to a system that hypothetically doesn't go to law enforcement, even though that company has a deal with law enforcement. But I'm sure that they'll never get switched in between.
So I'm just going to assume that the argument for doing this is that if the FedEx driver gets in an accident or some kind of incident happens, you can identify the driver in front of you, behind you.
Yeah.
Is that the argument for why this is good? I'm assuming?
No, I found it through through something that had to do with Flock. But the security. It's a security company. And they already have 40,000 cameras in 4,000 cities across 40 states. So the company's on the way up with their technology.
Okay.
They made a deal with FedEx so license plate readers is the same kind of thing that like the meter maids have when they're driving up and down the street, and they're like, oh, we got one. They put a boot on it, like parking wars. That was a great show.
I don't know why Forbes always does this to me. Why do I have to subscribe? Why can't I just click on it?
Yeah, FedEx and Flock Surveillance.
Yeah, I found a thing, but Forbes wants me to like sign up and subscribe to their site. But hang on, I got it. Hang on, let me upload this. So here's kind of what you were saying, right? Flock Safety, a $4 billion car surveillance startup, provides AI-powered video surveillance feeds to FedEx. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, I can't really read it, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it says they partnered with Flock Safety, which involves installing Flock cameras on FedEx trucks as they roll around the nation. This collaboration has raised concerns among civil rights activists, as it could potentially expand Flock's car surveillance network, which already spans 4,000 cities across 40 states.
Yep.
Interesting.
That's exactly the quote that I have copied and pasted here, so this must be where my person got it from.
Interesting. Yeah, it's right. It's actually right at the top of the browser, as you can see. Like, there's not even like a website for it. It's just kind of posted up there. But yeah, obviously you can see there's other links and stuff. So, wow. All right. So I guess like again back to my initial question, like what is the what does this mean?
It's just another way for them for surveillance.
So just more spying tactics, essentially.
Yeah, it's more 1984 type shit.
But 1984. I need to watch that movie. But you said that that they're not sharing their information with law enforcement, or they are.
Well, it doesn't give you correct an answer yet, but I'm saying it's the same company. It's like, is Amazon not selling my shit that they're not collecting? With my Alexa's right there.
Oh, that's all right, fair.
Fucking robot.
And even still, what does that mean? So if they're not sharing information with law enforcement, what is law enforcement? Does that just mean police?
Think about it this way: what if they're not sharing it, but what if like law enforcement reaches out to them? Hey, we're trying to find this person. Do your trucks have it? Like
if they're trying to solve a murder or crime or something, sure.
Whatever it might be. Like when the police or the authorities had an Apple phone. And remember they called Apple and Apple wouldn't tell them how to unlock the phone because they didn't have a warrant or blah 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 or some shit.
Right.
And then that safe company gave the information to the feds, and I remember, they drilled out the guy's gun vault or something. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I vaguely. I don't know the details of the story, but yeah, I remember hearing something like
what
that.
What they're saying is that just because they're not sharing the information doesn't mean they don't have that information.
Oh, of course. Of
You
course.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if you add facial recognition to it, you know what I mean? Now you're clocking every car and every person that walks by that FedEx truck.
Yeah. I think that's a growing problem. On one hand, you can argue that surveillance is a good thing because, again, it does help us solve crimes and things. But overall, I don't see how this is good for the citizens of our country to have more surveillance overall. Because, like you said, it's just an extended range.
Used against us.
Yeah, it could be used against you. Exactly.
Because now that they have it, they know they have it.
Did we talk about this? Did you see the guys in Britain? Guys, did you see the guys and girls in Britain that are going around cutting the camera poles down?
They're heroes.
I love it. I think it's great. They call themselves the Blade Runners, which is even better.
Yeah, we did
awesome.
talk about that because they have like whizzers and electric hacksaws.
Yeah.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
Freed from desire, mind and senses purified. Freed from desire, mind and senses purified. Freed from desire, mind and senses purified. Freed from desire.
Y'all ready for this?
I can't get no sleep.
Yeah, they're kind of like this I don't know, hacktivist group or whatever that, like, not hacktivist, but like, yeah, this group that
Just
goes around.
citizens who don't want to be surveilled on all the time.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, from what I understand, like, Britain has more cameras than any other country in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Aren't they like the most heavily surveillanced state in the world?
They were at one time. I mean, I'm not. I bet you China's caught up or passed them.
Oh, China. Yeah, they're probably number 2 now. China's watching everything. You can't do anything in China without the government knowing about it. Same with North Korea, unfortunately.
Did you see in California the Senate Bill 1414? The representative is Sharon Grove from California, right? So the law is going to make some kind of sex trafficking situation a felony. So whatever they're describing as a certain situation is right now not a felony. They want to make it a felony. And she's arguing against it because it'll be systematically targeted against LGBT, whatever the fuck community and pedophiles and shit because they're trying to make that shit okay.
So first of all, why is this already not a felony? If you're caught trafficking children, like,
I'm
how
sure
is that not a felony? Like,
well, what I'm saying is that it might not be that black and white. It might be like a technicality. You know what I mean? Like if you move across state lines or county lines, or the kid's 12 and you're 30, you know what I mean? Like the rules might change. Whatever wasn't a felony before, they're trying to make it a felony now, and that's why they're arguing against it. That'll
So
be. Go ahead.
I've heard this before, where people say that when you pass laws like this, right, that have to do with the P word, right, the attraction to the
Yeah, I'm with you.
the younger folks, right?
Diddle and the littles.
Yeah. So, and I've heard people make this argument like, hey, if you pass this law, it's going to affect the LGBT community. First of all, I know lots of gay people. I've met tons of gay people. I'm friends with many of them. Some of them are wonderful. I don't see in any way how this affects gay people, right? Like most gay people are just like us. They date, marry whomever, people their own age. I'm sure there's some P words in there, mixed in there, but the vast majority of them don't engage in that kind of behavior. So I don't understand why that would affect them, right? Now, if we're going to take that to the next place and we say that the T community, that it's going to affect them, and again, I know some of these people too, and again, they're just relatively normal folks. Worked with some of them for years, never got that at all, but my question is that if you're concerned that this is going to affect the T community, why? And what does that say about the T community? If there's that much concern that the T community is using P or is into P rather.
I'm not sure if it's the T community as opposed to just the P community.
Exactly. So I think what's happening is the P community is masquerading in some regards as the T community. The T community, again, is mostly, law-abiding citizens. But there, unfortunately, in that group, there are, these degenerate people that are in every group, P's, they're not subject to a single group. They're in all groups, in all countries, in all walks of life, I think it's actually kind of more common than we all think it is.
There was another part of that from a separate conversation that part of trying to keep the laws from not getting stricter, or it's this is just what I heard. I forget who it is. It was on, I don't know, one of the fucking things that I watch. The guy's argument was that once it's acceptable that a child can make the decision to cut off their twig and berries, that they're old enough to then choose to be sexually active or not, and then boom.
How do you feel about that? What do you think what are your thoughts on that? If you had a kid, would you allow him to transition?
My theory is the argument. I just argue the argument because it's ridiculous. If a kid is old enough to make that decision to chop off their twig and berries at whatever age, or take meds to change how they know how they feel and they're responsible enough to know how they feel. Why can't they vote? Why can't they get a tattoo? Why can't they smoke cigarettes? You know what I mean? If your argument is that they're not smart enough to do this shit, they're not smart enough to do that shit. Until you let them do everything, I don't need to argue how I feel about cutting off twigs and berries, because your argument is hypocrisy.
Yeah, I've heard that argument before, and I can't challenge it because it's valid, like you just said.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think a kid's old enough to fucking cut off twig and berries at fucking 11 or 9 or whatever.
Well, again, that's a permanent decision to do that. Like you're not getting that back. That's gone. Whatever you did to yourself, it's permanent.
Permanent.
So yeah, and who even knows the the long lasting effects of all of that? So I'm fully supportive of transitioning. If you're of an adult and of sound mind, go for it. Be yourself. When it comes to kids, I'm in kind of the same position as you are. Again, would you let your 11-year-old go get a tattoo? Would you let them join the military and go off to war? Would you let them have a beer? Or several beers? Or would you let them smoke weed or do LSD? Or because again, if they're old enough to make this permanently altering decision, why aren't they old enough to drop a tab of acid? That acid's temporary. This other thing is going to be with them forever. So
just like tattoos.
Well, you can get them removed, but So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. So in my personal feeling, if I had a child, who wanted to transition, would I allow it? And the answer I've come up with is maybe. I think it would depend on the circumstances. Say hypothetically speaking, right? My 3-year-old.
So hypothetical.
All hypothetical because I don't have any kids. But if I did, right, my 3-year-old is, hey Dad, I feel like let's just say it's a girl. Dad, I feel like a boy. Okay. No problem, Vanessa, and then we just go about our day. But Vanessa keeps I'm not going to name my kid Vanessa if I ever have one, by the way. Just throwing it out there. I like the name though. What's that?
You know you're getting that.
So yeah. So and if over time, Vanessa is still reiterating this to me. Now she's 12, right? So she's been saying, for the last 9-10 years that she really feels like I might allow it.
Vanessa wants to be a Vinny.
Vanessa wants to be Vincent, right? Yeah, I can't say that I wouldn't, and obviously it wouldn't solely be my choice. I'd have somebody else who I'd have to discuss that with. But yeah, I can't say I wouldn't allow it.
Do you think that the kid should be allowed to do it without your permission?
Fuck no. Fuck no.
But it's okay for you to make the decision for your kid.
Well, I'm the guardian, am I not? You can make your decisions when you're 18, or you can get the hell out of this house and go live with somebody else.
But if Vanessa wants to be Vincent at 12 and she's been clocking that story for a minute, then you would be okay with the kid making those permanent changes.
I would sit down with the kid and with her mother, and we would talk. And if me and the mother conclude that, yeah, all right, the kid's been talking about this for a long time, the story hasn't changed.
No doctors, no therapists, no nothing.
What do I need that for? For
No.
what? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't need to involve any of them. This is between me, the baby's mama, and the kid.
Well, it's a medical decision, isn't it? So wouldn't you need to include a doctor of some sort?
Well, at some point, if we decided to go through with it, yeah, we'd have to get a doctor to do it. But as far as the initial decision, I don't need a doctor or a therapist or any of that present. All I need is me, the kid, and the baby's mom.
Let me ask you a random question then.
Sure.
Why is it that when you can't see boobs and nipples on TV, but if someone hacks off their boobs and puts the same nipple back on, they can then take their shirt off and be on TV?
I don't have an answer for that one.
So it's not the nipple, it's the boob. So you can't see boobs, but so if it's not the nipple, then why do all bathing suits cover nipples? So the nipples be showing, just be covering the boob?
I mean, so I find the whole thing kind of silly to begin with. I get your point, right? So, like, for example, right, like in France, right, or like Britain, like some of the other countries, like around the world, from what I understand is the censorship laws are a little bit different. Now, I could be wrong, but to my understanding, so like,
I don't care that they show boobies in Britain and they don't have bad words or violence. That's fine.
So that's kind of the thing, is that they're more concerned about violence than they are about nudity, right? For example. And that makes total sense to me. I'm not trying to shut down violence, but why is it okay for my 13 or 14-year-old to get into a PG-13 movie? They don't show any boobs or any naked bodies because that's offensive, but this dude just got his head chopped off and 16 other guys got shot up real quick and full of holes, and that's okay? Because that's kind of confusing to me. I find the human naked body far less offensive than I find some dude getting shot in the head, that my kid's watching. Like, that makes no sense to me.
I guess it kind of goes back to our point before too, with too much dick on TV. I find in most shows that sex scenes in general are just too long.
100%.
Yeah,
I don't even know why. Go ahead.
Some of the Game of Thrones stuff is almost like softcore porn for like 2.5 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm like, if they're going, like, I don't need to see the kissing at all. Like, I want to see action and plot. Just imply that they had sex. I don't need to see them have sex. I believe you.
I think in GOT's case, it's more for like shock value because, again, a lot of shows weren't doing that.
In general. But.
Like I said, I don't hate on it because in many ways it desensitized me to a lot of things that I should be desensitized to. But yeah, it's weird that you say that because when this usually occurs in like 80s action films, right? there's always one scene in the movie where they have a saxophone playing and some dude and the girl are getting it on. You usually see her boobs, maybe you see her butt. You don't see anything of him except for maybe his chest, you know?
Right. Maybe
but-
some butt. I've seen Patrick.
or you see the man's butt. But why is any of that necessary? Like, all we need to see is them walking into a house, and then boom, the next scene is them walking out the front door. We all know what happened. We don't need to see it.
Like in Roadhouse, when he stands up naked, you see his butt. It works in the scene, but it's not like him walking around flexing his ass for 15 minutes.
Sure, and I'm not saying that they should cut them all out. Like, maybe there's some good dialogue in that scene, you know. But most of the time, like, yeah, we don't actually have to show this with the saxophone playing love music in the background. We all know what's going on. You know?
Even like regular TV shows, it's just too long. I'm like, all right, I don't care if it's straight or gay sex. I'm just ready for the next plot. You know what I mean?
Right, because the scene essentially serves no value other than to just see the person's boobs. You know,
or get you all like busy. But I'm trying to watch the movie. I'm trying to pay attention to the show. I don't have time for all that right now.
Yeah. Again, it's fine, but yeah.
I want to take a break.
Yeah, it's fine. But I usually get up and go get a drink of water or something like that during those scenes. Because again, if they don't add anything to it, but GOT is a bit different because there is some useful dialogue in some of those sex scenes. You know.
Yeah, if I've seen it once, then I just fast forward. If I'm watching it again, I'm banging out Game of Thrones again for some reason.
Because it's awesome, except for the last season and a half.
Yeah, like a couple, for some reason, it came up like in my reels, a bunch of like Tyrion being Tyrion. I was like, I kind of feel like watching the rest of it. You know, I mean, I've watched it before, and I've tried to rewatch multiple times, but I always get to like season 3 and stop. So I started at 4. Oh, sorry about that.
That 4 is my favorite.
I'm just banging it out. Well, I think I'm in 5 now.
4 and 6 are probably my two favorite seasons, even though 6 is.
Oh, because I was trying to see when the book was coming out, which they're not fucking saying yet. That's why I hit my algorithm. Because I read the books.
Speaking of Game of Thrones, you know, one specific scene comes up with in my head with Renly and Loras, right? When those two, you know, are doing.
Yeah.
So there's a sex scene between those two where they're kind of laying in bed, and I think there's one where like Loras is kind of shaving him or something like that, right? But again, like that scene is actually useful because there's actually useful dialogue. You have like Renly like, hey man, I don't know if I'm ready for this kingly shit. You know, he's having like self-doubts, and Loras is like, no, man, you're gonna be the best king ever. So again, I feel like, you know, there's some character development there. You know, so yeah, really in reality, if you're watching the scene on mute, it's literally just one dude shaving another dude, you know, in the nude.
No, I'm not talking about a dude shaving another dude. I'm talking about like the kissing and the making out and like the sex part. It's just music and like different shots of them in bed. But it goes on for too long. I mean, anything besides 5 seconds is too long for me. But I mean, you're talking like a minute and a half of show.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it's okay that it runs a minute and a half if there's useful dialogue. If there's some character growth in the scene, then yeah.
What I'm saying, asshole, is that the dude shaving another dude isn't the same as them fucking.
Well, again, there's another scene, I think, where they're in bed together and they're having, again, another discussion that is beneficial to their character arcs.
Are they having the discussion in the middle of banging each other?
No, I think they're just laying there naked and shit.
Why do you make this shit so difficult?
Why am I making it difficult?
Because I'm telling you the difference between shaving and porn, softcore porn.
No, they're not actually in the act of fucking or pretend fucking, let's say.
Not the same thing.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's a great show. I just wish maybe one day we can get AI to redo season 8. That would be fantastic. Maybe. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, everybody says that. I don't know. I don't know how the rest of the actual story.
I don't want to hate on the showrunners because they did great work, but they really dropped the ball in the last season, in my opinion. And you know, it's all the writing. The acting's still great. The musical score is still great. The cinematography is great. You know, everything's great.
It started.
The writing sucks.
It started to fall apart when they ran out of books, and they started having to wing it.
Yeah, and most people say that happens in like season 6. Which I actually love season 6. I thought they did a wonderful job with the limited material they had.
The end of season 4 is the Oberon mountain fight.
Yeah.
And Tyrion getting away.
Yeah.
And then season 5 starts and he's across of the pond. He comes out of the crate with Varys.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it by now, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly what happens.
I remember when it first came out,
And somebody
people
dies at the end of 5.
and people were talking about spoilers and whatever. But I read the book, so it didn't bother me. And then when people would do it, like, "Oh my god, I can't believe what happened to Ned Stark," I was like, I would like message them. Let me tell you about the Red Wedding, asshole.
I don't know if you remember doing this, but one of our mutual friends that we went to high school with, back in season 4, episode 2, I believe, somebody dies at the end of episode 2. And this nerd posted it on Facebook or something before I even got a chance to watch the episode. And all he did was write 1 word or 2 words, but I had already known that now this character gets killed, so he ruined it for me. And I remember complaining to you about it. I was like, man, like, he's a cool guy, but like, this is really fucked up because he just ruined the episode for me. And you had already known the next big character that gets killed again at the end of season 5. And then you're like, yo, don't even worry about it, bro. I just ruined season 5 for him. I was like, oh God, you know, not that I wanted that, but at least maybe he'll understand what he just did, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
that happened to me a bunch of times when like I used to watch Sons of Anarchy, and I think whatever night it was on, I got home too late to catch the first episode, and they play them back to back. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The new episode at 10 and 11, the same episode. So I'd have
they're re-airing the same episode in case you missed it.
Yeah, but it was like an hour and a half show sometimes, so I couldn't catch it until like it replayed at like 1 in the morning.
Yeah, you're watching the encore. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there'd be times that it's like I'd look at social media or whatever, be like, oh, I can't believe what happened to Jax. You know, like, I can't believe the fucking Opie dies. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You know, that was some courtesy.
Oh yeah, and a lot of these people, they put the spoiler right in the title. Like right in the title of the article. So like I'm just scrolling down a page and then boom, it's already spoiled for me. I didn't even click on the shit, you know? And that's kind of what happened here. So again, I'm no hard feelings. I'm not mad at him for doing that, but yo, just check yourself in the future. Some other people might not have watched it yet. You know, not all of us get to watch it the first second it comes out, you know?
Yeah, but now I just do my best to not fucking pay attention.
Well, now I'm going to watch House of Dragons season 2, but I like to wait until
I haven't started yet, but because I am watching the other one, my algorithm keeps showing like people breaking down each episode. But again, it's like in the title sometimes. So
I've been actively trying to avoid it because I like to wait until all the season, like all the episodes have aired, and then I just binge the whole season. But yeah, the problem with that is people tend to spoil, just assuming that everybody else has watched it already. Like, no, I'm gonna watch it. Just chill. You know, please don't put your spoilers in the title. You
know. Did you know since COVID started, the state of Georgia has lost 2,000 kids?
I heard something about that.
Like a handful of them have aged out, but they don't know what happened to them. They just like when they turn 18, they just stop looking for them. But
go ahead. I'm trying to think of who the first.
Well, there was that thing in Georgia. Spike Cohen and his organization called "You Are the Power." They in Georgia, like the more you get dough per the kids you have in the system. So they're like taking kids that really don't need to be taken from parents to get the dozier.
Oh, for money purposes, just to keep.
Yeah. So like, so if you go to youarethepower.com, I believe it's .com, could be .org, I don't know, but it's Spike Cohen's thing, and he's got it's the family they're trying to help right now because they took the kid over some nonsense, and then like I don't know, maybe they lost the kid or some shit. I don't fucking know.
Let's see if it comes up. So I think Trump had said the other day that there's I think just this year alone, there's like 150,000 children missing. And somebody, I really can't remember, just recently, like a month or two ago, said there were 80,000 kids in the United States missing so far. So I don't know if those numbers are accurate.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff about.
If the numbers are accurate, did we just lose another 70,000 kids in the last month or two? And where did they go?
I've seen a bunch of stuff about the border with on a lot of like the military shows, like Sean Ryan or a couple of the guys in like that network. They have a couple of of ex-border guards. I guess when they do their book tours and shit, they stop on those shows and they talk about like the sex trafficking and the whatnot.
So, man, this is a touchy topic, and I don't think most people want to talk about it, but it's, and I want to disprove it, but it's a thing, people.
It happens all the time.
It's
All
a
right, we
thing
can move
all the
on.
time.
Did
So
you
here's Spike's here's his website, by the way.
You might have to just join it to get in real quick. It was a free one.
Does this make any sense to you?
No, because it needs you to. You got to join it for free. Scroll up. Yeah, just join now for free. 0. See it right in the middle.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry
Oh,
about it.
yeah,
Don't
no,
do
I'm
it.
not doing
Just to get to the homepage. Don't worry
But
about
anyway, yeah, that's Spike's site.
it. Yeah,
so.
there's a couple that they're helping.
Well, I hope they're able to do that.
Yeah, it's the Georgia. What's the children's DIFUS type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever the foster care unit of that. Dirty game, man, but it happens.
It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah,
A really long time. It's really disturbing. Like, it upsets me when I have to go down these rabbit holes and learn this stuff, man. It really I've actually started crying reading and watching some of the stuff before. It's just so fucking horrendous.
Yeah, I just accept it, I guess. Yeah.
You can accept it if you want, but yeah.
I've been reading about it for too long that like when you just read about it, it's just reading about it. It's not like it's happening in front of my face.
Well, no, it's not just reading about it. I've heard audio and actually seen video on some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even cry, bro. I'm not an emotional fucking person, dude, and this shit really breaks me. Like, it's so fucked up. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of kids go missing every year, not just here, across the world.
I think I sent you this link, so I want you to attach it in the comments later. You watch Glenn Greenwald at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just discovered him recently. I didn't know who he was before. I think you put me on him, actually.
Yeah, he used to be super left, and then he got the first Snowden interview, and he was like, "Holy shit, fuck the government," you know what I mean? Anyway, so he was talking about that, whatever report he was reading. Oh, it was from the Lancet. The Lancet is some kind of medical reporting paper, journal, website, reporter thing. They got in trouble. They had like not a scandal. Well, I guess it is a scandal. They like doubled down on that the release of the virus came from the market, and they knew it didn't, but they like pushed that narrative anyway.
Oh, rather than the lab?
Right. And Jeffrey Sachs proved them wrong, who's an economist. You should follow Jeffrey Sachs. He's awesome.
His name rings a bell. I've seen him before.
Yeah, economist dude. He's also big time political science guy. Good on Israel, good on Ukraine, obviously. And he's an Austrian economist, so he understands how the rest of the shit works. But anyway, they're saying that the death count in Gaza is more like 186,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But they're including like the people that they can't be found because they're buried under the rubble.
Palestinians and Israelis?
No, well, it says Gaza, so I'm guessing it's just Palestinians alone.
I mean, it's terrible regardless. That's awful.
And like, so I guess that the bodies that they're counting are bodies that they're counting. Everybody else is trapped under rubble, and the actual numbers are being underreported on purpose.
And of course they are.
But I don't know. I mean, if you want to look it up, Glenn Greenwald, and I think it was yesterday's, one of his 30-minute clips yesterday.
I've seen numerous videos too on what you had mentioned. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, where not only did they know, but they allowed this to happen intentionally. Again, another false flag thing,
They knew it. They put out the memo. The IDF put out a memo 2 weeks before the attack. They knew what day it was happening. I told you they expanded.
They extended the concert purposely, knowing that this was going to transpire. Yeah, and if you say stuff like that, you're anti-Semitic. But these are just the facts people are reporting on it. I'm not saying this. You're not saying this. We're just reading what we're being told by the people who are in the know. And if you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. But the truth is the truth.
So the last thing I got today is I actually saw this right before we started the show. Viktor Orban is the president of Hungary, and he's over in DC right now for the NATO convention. He's also the new head of the EU. It's his turn to be the leader.
Okay.
And after the NATO summit, he's going to Mar-a-Lago to chat it up with Trump.
Okay.
So the president of Hungary, the new leader of the EU, is talking to Biden today and going to Florida to talk to Trump.
What do you think that means?
I don't know. It's a little bit of a big deal. He probably wants to know what his plans are if he wins.
Is Trump is Trump for the EU?
It's not the EU. I believe that he wants to stop the war in Ukraine.
He said that. He's actually said it in such an asshole fashion too. Like, he's basically like, oh, well, if it was me, Putin never would have done that because, Putin's my bitch, is essentially what he says, and he said that numerous times.
Yeah, but there's a good argument that Putin might have not done it.
Yeah, true. But again, it's not the content of what he's saying. It's the way that he comes across. He could have simply said, like, if I was in office, me and Putin would have worked something out, so this wouldn't have happened. But he doesn't say that. Instead, he's like, Putin would never challenge me because I'll whoop his ass. This is essentially like what comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, but he doesn't say that. He kind of he's a Putin smart guy. Like him. Putin very smart.
He goes. I saw a recent video where he goes beyond that though. Yeah. That would be fine. Hey, Putin. Yeah, me and him are cool. Blah blah blah. That would have been fine. But that's not what he says in the recent video.
I think Trump actually might have the ability to bring Russia into the fold.
He very well might. Yeah, I think he has a way better chance of brokering a peace deal than fucking Biden does, for sure. Biden's not even interested in a peace deal. He wants the forever war.
He doesn't need to broker one. Putin's offered peace a dozen times,
which has been rejected.
Yeah, it's the West that is denying it. Even after Ukraine agrees, they make Ukraine stop.
Well, if you watch the Tucker interview too, this has been going on for a while because Putin said that they had a peace deal on the table. What was it, in 2020 or something like that? Like shortly after it happened, and Boris Johnson.
In 2 months after Boris Johnson.
Yeah, Boris Johnson convinced Zelensky and everybody else not to accept it. So again, like whose fault is this war really? Like, yes, part of the blame falls on Russia for sure. I'm not trying to take that away from them, but again, if Russia is invaded, they started it, or they didn't start it, but they did start the invasion, and they're trying to broker peace deals, and the West keeps shooting them down.
Well, if you listen to even yesterday, talking about NATO, and today talking with NATO, Biden has basically doubled down on everything. Like he's done everything but say we're trying to make Putin go to war with us. We're going to give you more missiles. We're going to let you shoot those missiles inside to Russia. We're not going to stop you from doing this. They're getting the F-16s, and he said we have 100,000 troops in Europe already, and Poland's doing that. He was saying all this shit. Like if I was Putin, I'd be like, "So are you trying to tell me that you want to step up? Like what are we doing here?"
Right. Did you see the video the other day about the bombing of the bombing of the hospital with There's a short clip in the video where you can actually see why is it always blurry? But the missile that hits this hospital is blurry, so you can't really make out whose missile it is. Not that that really matters. Because anything can be fabricated.
It seems that one of the other missiles that landed was like an interceptor missile. So the Russian missile hits, but the interceptor was still chasing it, so it crashed. You know what I mean? It didn't catch up to the bomb in time to hit it, so they both blew up.
So do you think Putin and Russia fired this missile intentionally at a hospital in Kiev?
No,
or is it Kiev?
I can't say this for a fact, but they were hitting the thing next to it or down the street or whatever, right? And you can tell when you slow down the video, you see the Russian missiles come down, and then you see like two other ones that are obviously a different shape. And when you look at them and analyze them, they are the whatever missile that they got from us. And it looked like it was an interceptor missile. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. So they fired these missiles that were intended for the target. The Ukrainian missiles that they got from Russia tries to intercept them, but the Russian missiles already hit the target, and then the intercepting missiles hit the target, and all of them blow up. Is that what you're saying?
But they're saying that the ones that actually hit the hospital were the interceptors.
Were the interceptors. See,
I don't know for sure. I haven't really gotten into it.
I don't really know what the fuck to make of all of this. But you know what? When I just look at this from a logical perspective, right? Like Putin so far has been, yeah, he's invaded Ukraine and that's terrible. But he's generally been, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
not escalating.
Yeah, he intentionally is seeming to not wanting to escalate. Like he's obviously kind of frozen his borders at several points where basically he has like, you know, stopped his advance, even though he could just steamroll right through the next areas if he wanted to.
They're advancing, but they've dug in that there's no way the Ukrainians are going to be able to push them back out.
Right.
They're dug in. Pretty much have all those the oblasts is what they call like states there, or big counties, whatever the fuck they call them. But it's like oblasts or whatever. So whatever like their natural border is, he wants the Ukrainians to pull out of there, stop shooting, and the minute they do that, he will tell his troops to stand down.
Yeah, you know, to give an analogy, it's almost like being in like an ultimate fight, right? Like you're in the cage and you got this guy in a chokehold, right? And like there's no way in hell he's getting out of it.
He did give you a pretty decent out, but it's your call.
What do you think?
Don't say it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it.
Nope. Break it, Pepe Le Pew. As you wish. He actually did it.
Why would he now all of a sudden decide to just blow up a hospital? Right? Like, is that strange?
Well, I told you. I mean, like hypothetically, what I saw is that the hospital wasn't the target.
Right. So what you're saying is that Putin had bombed another target and the interceptor missiles accidentally hit the hospital. Allegedly. We don't know.
But maybe they were like, I don't care. And because you shot a bunch of missiles into our cities,
this is your fault.
You know, we're gonna if you're trying to do the fear tactic of saying, you know, our people aren't safe behind in our controlled area, you know, we're gonna show you that your people aren't safe on the other side of Ukraine.
Yeah, I could see that. It seems to me that Putin, again, trying to make peace numerous times, kind of, you know, halting his advances numerous times. You know, it seems to me like he's trying to do this, like, again, in his mind, maybe he feels like he has to do this for geographical purposes, right? But it just seems to me that he's been very, like, reserved with this entire war. So for him to just blow up a hospital, which is what mainstream is insinuating, you know, out of nowhere, doesn't really make sense. It makes far more sense to me for the West to blow up a hospital so that they can further this conflict and get everybody to rally behind them so that they can have their forever war. That makes more sense to me. I don't know what's true.
Yeah, I don't think, honestly, I mean, it's a shame to say this, but I don't think that accidentally hitting a hospital is a big deal anymore in the scope of war.
Well, again, if it was an accident, it was an accident. I don't know.
If it wasn't an accident, it's not going to change anything, you know.
Well, it's a war crime if it wasn't an accident, you know.
Who we can say is committing war crimes? You know?
Well, we'd have to send almost every global leader to the tribunal for war crimes if you're going to put Putin on it. Yeah. I don't know, man. It just doesn't make the mainstream narrative just doesn't make sense to me as usual. As
the mainstream narrative is that he's the aggressor. He's always been the aggressor, and he wants a certain amount of territory back. When the history and the moves that have been made and the actions of Russia as a playing power politics don't match up with the narrative.
Yes. Yeah, it just doesn't compute for me. I don't understand. Why would you be so methodical in your approach? And again, Putin knows, like, if you start killing innocent people, the entire rest of the globe is going to turn against you. You know,
I don't think he's worried about that.
I do.
I mean,
he's
why?
got because he has some sympathizers on his side. Go ahead.
Stop. It's Russia. What I'm saying is, if the other day, right, the Ukrainians hit Russia inside, right, tit for tat. You know, this isn't just some. You know what I mean? Like, don't look deeper into it's a hospital conspiracy. The hospital blew up.
But Putin knows that we're not going to hear about the explosions in Russia, you know, for the most part.
It was all over TV.
Oh, it was? Oh, I don't know. I don't, again, I don't know. I don't follow, like the mainstream stuff for the most. My cat just threw a ball over the floor.
It happened.
I don't know. This is just, it just seems really silly to me. Like, so for, like, going back to Israel and Palestine, right? So, as we know, Israel.
Why are we going from one border?
Well, because I'm trying to make a point and I'm just making it very badly.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm explaining it properly, or maybe my point sucks. I don't know. But I feel like, so from Israel's perspective, right? They don't want us to know that they knew about October 7th, right? That they knew about the attack, that they allowed it to happen, because now they can no longer play the victim card, right? The victim card is, hey, we were attacked. We have every right to go over there. And that's a legit argument. You know, I'm not saying I buy totally into that argument, but a lot of people would buy into that argument. Hey, Israel was attacked. They have every right to defend themselves, and they have every right to invade Gaza, right?
Yeah, the majority of people say that.
The majority of people will say that until you find out that Israel knew about this and they intentionally let it happen. Now that victim card's gone.
I know, but like at the same time, the majority of people still don't know that.
Right. Which is why they're still able to get away with what they're doing, right? But if the entire world or most of the world came, oh my God, they knew about it, they let it happen, now all that sympathy's gone. So I guess what I'm saying in Russia's case is Putin has done such a job.
Sympathy is gone, Paul. Israel has lost no sympathy.
What do you mean?
What sympathy is gone?
No, what I'm saying is people have sympathy for Israel because the mainstream narrative is Israel was attacked, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So even though they're committing genocide in Gaza, and the most people don't know about it, but you know, I think a lot of people are okay with it because they see Israel as a victim. You following me?
Yeah, you do that. Yeah.
Right. Even though me and you know that they're not, the majority, right?
Yeah.
So I think Putin. So Putin he's been in the game for a while. He understands the global game, right? And he understands that you can't piss off everybody, right? Yeah, you're going to piss off the United States and its allies, you know, maybe for good reason, you know.
Okay.
So it makes no sense to me why Putin would intentionally bomb a hospital, even just to send a message. Because now anybody like maybe me, for example, who might be like, hey, you know what, I am kind of on Russia's side to a degree, but Putin just bombed the hospital, so you know what? Fuck you, Putin. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is he would lose support if he was found doing that.
I think that that's enough to sway anybody.
Maybe not. It wouldn't help the image, is what I'm trying to say, you know, and it would make no sense for him to do that at this point.
What makes no sense about what the narrative is that there's a big difference between East and West Ukraine. When Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, Stalin purposely moved a whole bunch of people into Ukraine.
Yeah, they're all Russians. I know.
A lot of people in the eastern part of Ukraine that have, in the past, reached out to Putin for help, especially after the coup in 2014 by us, and they were kicking the shit out of the Russians inside. The Ukrainians were beating up on the Russians.
Yeah, they were killing them, right?
But Western Ukraine is Ukrainian.
Right.
So what doesn't make any sense is Russia trying to take over all of Ukraine and have to deal with the home base. You know what I mean? It's not like you can't really conquer territory these days in Asia and not have like an uprising on the inside.
Yeah. And again, that's the mainstream narrative, that he wants to take over all of Ukraine, and then after that, he's going to come for the rest of Europe. But yeah, from what I've heard from Putin and from, you know, interviews and stuff that I've seen, I don't get that at all. Like, I'm kind of with you. Like, he kind of just, you know, he apparently, I think there's several reasons he went in, but in this particular reason, yeah, he went in to save a lot of his people who live in Ukraine, but have Russian origin that were asking for his help. What would you do?
What Russia's always needed for its security, and this has been a thing since the end of the Cold War, is throughout Russia's history, as Russia's been around for a long fucking time, has been invaded like 15 times or some shit. And every time they've been invaded, they've come through like 5 certain areas. And but some of those areas were on the other side of the Donbass River. You know, like where the natural borders are for them to stop an invading army from coming in. So what he wants is the buffer zone.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're going to push him, then he wants, geographically speaking, for Russia to be safe from an invading army, they need to go all the way over to the other side and get the mountains that only allows like 3 entrances into Greater Russia, and they just bang those up.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, Russia's got a huge border, but there's not many places you can bring an army through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's also there's a lot of mountains there too. Like is it the Ural mountain range? That's isn't that the southern border of Russia?
The Urals are on,
or is that
the Urals? The Urals is what divides like European Russia and Asian Russia.
Oh, okay, got you. Like, yeah.
The Urals are on like inside Russia.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the geography, but go ahead.
Look at the USSR. Look at their map. That's kind of blocks all their main entrances into, because it's all like plains and flatlands out there. You know, I mean, that's all wheat and shit in Ukraine in that part. So fertile valley.
Yeah, you brought up a good point too. You mentioned the buffer zone, right? And I think a good analogy for the buffer zone is North Korea, right? So like North Korea and China, for example, right? They're not really friendly. They cooperate with each other, but North Korea is kind of a thorn in the side in many ways, I think, to China. But China allows them to operate and even sends them money and other things, even though they don't necessarily like the Kim Jong-un regime.
They're an ends to a means. Yeah.
Yeah. So why would they help them then if they don't like them? Well, the answer's simple, because South Korea is obviously very friendly with the West, and even in some degrees part of the West, you know, like within their culture and things like that. So North Korea is their buffer zone. It's that little buffer zone that's in between, that separates South Korea / the United States and China.
How wide is that?
What's that?
How wide is that?
What do you mean?
How wide is the DMZ?
Oh, I'm not just talking about the DMZ. That's the buffer zone between North Korea and South Korea. What I'm saying is that China uses the entire country of North Korea as a buffer zone between them and the United States / South Korea. So the entire country actually operates as a buffer zone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, it's not like China doesn't want Korea because they've owned it a bunch of times. It's not like the Japanese don't want Korea because they've owned it a bunch of times.
Sure, but again, what I'm saying is that even though China and North Korea aren't really friends and they don't really like each other, well, maybe North Korea likes China, but China doesn't really give a shit about North Korea, except for the fact that North Korea has use to them. Why? Because they're separating them from South Korea.
It's better than having a Western ally on your border.
Right on your doorstep. Right, exactly. Yeah. And I can understand that from China's perspective, from Russia's perspective, from any country's perspective. You know, what if Canada was hostile to us, or Mexico? You know, well, what if they were really hostile? That would be concerning to everybody in the United States and everybody in those respective countries as well. You know, because you would have this direct border with them. So I think the buffer zone definitely serves a purpose.
Well, that is
was a good point.
Was going on before the expansion of NATO. NATO shrank the buffer zone.
Greatly shrank the buffer zone.
On purpose, to keep the military industrial complex humming, to keep Russia an enemy when they didn't have to be. They still don't have to be. They don't necessarily need to be enemy. We just don't need to be fucking with them.
Yes. Here's a great example of it. Let me share this. Oh, come on, man. What do you want? You threw up all over the floor, you know. All over the floor you threw up.
Okay.
Here. So here's a good graph. So this is 1986 and then on, and you can watch NATO expand from 1986. I do want to make a point that RFK and numerous other people have already said that the United States has promised on at least 2 occasions to not expand NATO. One was in the 90s, and I think one was in the mid to late 2000s. And you can see how we go back on
The
that.
original
Our words.
one was between like Reagan and Gorbachev or whatever.
What's
and
that?
Then the original one of the handshake promise, I think, was Reagan and Gorbachev.
It could be. I'm not going to talk too much about it because honestly, I don't really remember the details. But like I said, RFK and many other people have
Well,
spoken
look, here's
out on it.
92, right? The Cold War ended in 89. So
Mhm.
this is NATO in 92. Do you have another one to show?
Yeah, I'm gonna let it play. Ready?
Uh-huh.
The dark blue is NATO. Just wait.
Yeah, I was trying to see what the blue was.
Yeah, the dark blue. So, I mean, just watching that, right? Let me pull this back up at the end so we can see it. What the hell? This is 2022. I mean, look at this. Like, no wonder Russia is concerned. Like, literally, the United States and all of its Western allies are literally on their doorstep. Sweden and Finland, I'm pretty sure they're also, it says Partnership for Peace. I don't know what that means, but they were also trying to get into NATO as well, weren't they?
They are. Finland and NATO are in now. They had a
There
problem
you go.
with Turkey had a disagreement with some kind of terrorist organization.
Well, there you go. And again, I think this map just speaks for itself. So other than Belarus and essentially Ukraine, everything else here is part of NATO. So I think it's totally understandable why Putin and Russia would be so concerned about us actually invading them, because we've done nothing but expand closer and closer and closer to their front door. You know, now we're basically camped out on their front lawn.
Right. And again, WikiLeaks, the 2008 memo from William Burns, who's currently the CIA director, did the net means net document.
Oh, yeah. Yet no means no.
Yeah. And he said, if you do so and so, these are red lines. And they went into Ukraine, started talking about Ukraine being in NATO, overthrew them in 2014 and did all this shit. And Russia was like, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, at some point, I mean, you're going to have to put your foot down.
This is chess right there.
Yes. You have to. I mean, you know, if you're going to do that in real life, you know, if somebody is walking towards you and they look threatening and you ask them to stop and they keep coming, at what point do you either pull your firearm out, punch them in the face, run away? You're going to have to make a decision at some point, you know?
I think that's a good analogy.
What's that?
It's not a good analogy.
It's not a good one? What would you use?
No, somebody walking up to punch you is not the same as encroaching.
I didn't say they were punching you. I said they were walking towards you. And you keep asking them to stop and they're not listening. I don't know if they have a gun. I don't know who they are. How would you respond?
But I don't think the comparison is the same as NATO encroaching on Russia as somebody walking at me. Because I would know the dude's an enemy if it's fucking NATO. Very, I mean, what NATO's doing.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. So what NATO's doing is they painted Russia into a corner, and they're forcing Russia to make moves.
Yes. That's what I think is exactly happening. Not only are we provoking them and have been for some time, but we're basically forcing them to do something. And I think what the current regime wants is for them to do something really drastic. Because again, that will just tell the rest of the world, oh, see, we were right the entire time. Look, Putin's a madman. He's a monster. Look what he just did. You know? And I think that's what they're hoping happens.
Well, Biden's speech today was very I was going somewhere when you were babbling about whatever.
It's hard with Biden too, because what Biden says to the masses and what he says behind closed doors, I'm pretty sure are two entirely different things.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
Hopefully it'll come back to you. But yeah, I guess what I'm not trying to say that Putin is like this great dude. I'm just trying to say that I understand him. I think I understand where he's coming from. I can understand why he's reacted a certain way. Unfortunately, it resulted in a lot of people getting killed.
Here's what I was going to say.
But I get it.
In Biden's speech today, he repeated multiple times again that America should be the leader of the free world. So basically, doubling down on interventionalism as opposed to non-interventionalism.
Nobody should be in charge of the world. We should just,
even if we wanted to, we can't do it.
Nor should we. But yeah, I think.
Okay, I just said even if we wanted to, so we're already on the nor should we part. That's obvious. So
well,
if we wanted to, motherfucker, we don't have the capabilities to do it.
All right, that's fair, bitch. Are we name calling now?
No, like hypothetically, you're like, well, we shouldn't do it. I'm like, no shit.
All right. I think you kind of said something about it. It was in the last episode, I think, where we said we're kind of in like a multi-power world now, where there is no one dominant power. And again, I think that's probably a good thing, you know.
Well, I mean, historically, when that happens, war happens.
Well, yes, but
because what happens is you end up with an arms race because no one wants to. Everyone's afraid of everybody else, so you keep building up as a deterrent, and then when you get too big, you end up fighting.
Well, that's what has been happening, but is that what actually needs to happen? Right?
That's
like, does it have to be this way?
Well, historically, that has what happened in wars of the past.
Right, but does it have to be that way? So, like, for example, the reason, where am I going with this? So JFK, right, at the very beginning of the Cold War, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can listen to RFK say this. This is where I heard it from, but I'm sure other people have said it too. So JFK wanted to make peace with Russia. I forget the president's name, but he had actually apparently spoken to the president of Russia on the phone, like personally, like just the two of them had a conversation. And at first, the Russian president, whatever his name was kind of
hold on. Khrushchev, President Khrushchev.
That sounds right. So Khrushchev was adverse to the idea at first, but then John had spoken to him several times, and John's proposition was this: I'm going to pull our weapons out of Turkey. I think it was in Turkey at the time, and shortly after I do that, I would like you to pull your stuff out of Cuba, or it was to not put it there in the first place.
The Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right. Which was kind of tied in, but there's the Cuban Missile Crisis is a little bit more complex than that because you had the CIA involved and they wanted to do a coup down there or, do a false flag event. But
that's the Bay of Pigs.
Oh yeah, you're right. No, the Cuban Missile Crisis was
that
was later.
In Cuba, and then we did the blockade, but it wasn't a blockade; it was a quarantine because it was. You ever see the movie 13 Days with Kevin Costner?
No.
It's like half black and white.
Are those for like flashbacks and stuff?
There's a scene in the movie when one of the ships gets through the quarantine on the way to Cuba, right? And one of the American ships, he's like, shoot starburst or put one across his bow or whatever. And the admiral uses a real bullet and goes too close to the ship. And the secretary of the Navy, he's yells at him. He's like, "What are you doing?" And the captain's like, "This is my ship, and I'll do I understand war and you don't or whatever." And the guy yells, he's like, "This is language. This is language. What we're doing." You know what I mean? The warning shot is the language.
You're communicating. Yes. Yeah. No, I get it. It makes sense.
That's why they purposely had to use the words quarantine and not a blockade, because a blockade is an act of war. So they quarantined Cuba and wouldn't let the boats in. And then behind the scenes, they negotiated, you don't put them in here, we'll pull them out of Turkey, and yada, yada, yada. That was the final, the last minute door deal that they did with each other.
So the reason I say this, and again, if you want more information on it, I'm sure you guys can find it, no problem. Like I said, RFK talks about it pretty openly, on several interviews. So the reason I say this is because I think John had the right idea. Right now we have this multi-world power, and what you're saying is that creates an arms race. And yes, historically, you're right. That's exactly what's happened. But my thing is, or what I'm saying is, does that have to happen? Because I think John had the right idea. If we pull our, we start abandoning our bases, right? For example, if we want to make peace with China, right? How many bases do we have surrounding China? It's like fucking ridiculous. I don't even remember how many it is, but it's a lot.
It's a different time. I mean, you gotta remember back in Kissinger was famous for détente, which was the stepping down of aggression. I mean, they were like at
That's where I'm trying to go with this. Yeah.
So that's détente is the step by step. I'll step away. You
step away. Yes. We will disarm a couple nukes. You disarm a couple nukes. And I think that's the way, man. I mean, we're not going to get there with the current assholes in power, but that's the way.
Hold on. The other thing that Kissinger is famous for doing is before China came into the World Trade Organization, you know what I mean? Kissinger went over and pulled China in more to our side and pulled them away from Russia.
For that time period, which has obviously been undone since then.
It wasn't just that time period. It's what allowed China to become what China is today.
For them to grow. Okay, I see.
China was always very reserved because after the Opium Wars, China got real pissed because they got played and they got real fucking bitter about it. So that's part of their 100-year plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it wasn't until after World War II that they really started to rise. Because again, China and Japan were at war before World War II. They were already at war.
Yeah, but
there was a stalemate.
China calls it the time of great humiliation, and the Opium Wars, where Britain was getting all its tea from China, right? So all the silver was leaving China or leaving England and going to China for their tea.
For their tea, right?
And England's like, oh shit, we're losing all our material wealth. We're losing the actual silver. So they ended up getting the Chinese hooked on opium. So the silver came back to the English. And then over time, the French got in, the Americans got in. I think the Dutch were over there, but we all basically took advantage of China. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then when they said no, we beat them up in the Opium Wars, and I think there might have been 2 Opium Wars or whatever. So China is really, really pissed, and they kind of sucked themselves in. And Mao did what Mao did after World War II, and then Kissinger came over and was like, how about we open up these markets? You got all these people, and that's when labor became all cheap in China, and we started making sneakers over there.
That's interesting. Yeah.
In 1945, Mao and them were it was right at the end of World War II. So I want to say it's 45. I'm pretty sure that's the start of the 100-year plan. And their plan is to be at least dominant in the original plan was that they would be the world superpower by 45. But I think that they might just be happy with controlling their sphere of influence as opposed to the whole world sphere of influence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I saw something the other day because we were talking about World War II. If you give me a second, I can probably pull some information up. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but since we're here, apparently after the war ended, 12 million Germans were killed.
I saw the same clip.
So
I tried looking deeper into it, and I couldn't find anything.
Candace was talking about it the other day. Let me see if I can find because she had a link for where she got the information from.
I didn't see it. I tried to Google it, and obviously that's not going to be easy because it's Google. So I tried, working around the search like I normally do, but I'm gonna have to go to a different site.
Let me see if I can find it. But this is crazy if this is true. So we're obviously, again, we're the history books in fucking school. Here we go again. Now we're back to the history books. We learn all about the Holocaust. All about the slaughtered 6 million, whatever, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't hear about the 12 million people that are killed after that.
You hear about Stalin's killing.
Yeah, well, of course.
Who did it?
I don't know. I forget. I'm gonna try and see if I can find it. I honestly I didn't really look too far into it. I just saw the clip and I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Is it like the Polacks went crazy and started killing all the Germans, or who killed them all?
It was. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it was probably Stalin and maybe some of the other leaders. Hang on.
I feel if Stalin did it, they'd be telling us. It would have been part of.
Good point, because they would have spun it and made him into some.
Not only did he kill 26 million Russians with the famine and all that stuff afterwards, but
good point.
He
That's probably not accurate. Good point. Let me see if I can find it.
Again,
right here. Sorry, go ahead.
Because again, I saw the same clip and I tried to find more information myself so we could talk about it in the show, and I couldn't find it, and I forgot about it.
I can't. Well, let me select. I just closed the page. I'm so stupid. But yeah, I don't know. That's really wild if that's accurate. Let me try to pull it up again. Sorry, I'm just gonna let you talk for a second while I do this. Or not. I'll just talk while I'm doing it.
While you're looking for it, there's my last thing is Representative Jennifer McKellen, Congresswoman out of Virginia. This is before the CARES Act passed Congress today, but she said that saying only Americans can vote is the 2024 version of the Jim Crow poll tax.
So they're insinuating that we should let non-Americans vote?
And we're racist by not allowing them to vote.
You know what that sounds like to me?
Bullshit.
Treason. What would our forefathers say about that? That we should let non-citizens vote in our elections?
Well, here's the argument for that. They're right away. People are like, "Well, it was only white men in the beginning, before blacks and women."
Oh yeah, who cares? They're just white males. Nobody cares about them. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I can't even engage in the culture war. I mean, we talked about the LGBT community earlier, but I don't even like to have those conversations. To be honest with you, it's divide and conquer shit. We should build a new world for all of us, everybody. I try not to engage in those silly banters.
The whole point, a lot of the original rules or implications for the Declaration and all that and the Bill of Rights, a lot of it had to do with you get a vote for being a landowner because you got to kind of have skin in the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if hypothetically, you just had a rebellion, took over a country, and then whoever owns what, and then all of a sudden you let everybody vote in a majority, it would be, you know what I mean? Your government would collapse right away because anybody who had nothing would automatically vote to take things from somebody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to make sure everybody's got skin in the game before you're allowed. I mean, that's the argument, and I get it. It also had a lot to do with, they still had slavery because they knew in the future they can get rid of it with the Constitution, but you couldn't do it that day because the South was too embedded in it. It just wasn't the time to get rid of it.
Well, I think go ahead.
But they made it technically unconstitutional, which is why slavery got its own amendment, because technically it's unconstitutional. So them putting it in knew it would play itself out that way, but they had to. You had to, again, have skin in the game to make it happen.
Yeah, I think especially in more historical time periods, you had to live within the means of your society, right? And we all know slavery is a terrible thing, right? Slavery's been all over the world. It ain't just in this country.
They still have it today.
It still exists. We are all financial slaves nowadays. But yeah, it still exists, and every country, every region of the world has had slavery at some point, going back thousands of years. Every race, every creed, everybody has been enslaved, right?
I mean, the word slave is from the Slavs, the Slavic people.
Yes, I actually just learned that recently. Yeah, that's accurate. So, I guess where I'm going with this is when you exist in society, especially like prior to this, you kind of have certain creeds that you have to follow, right? Hypothetically speaking, if you live in 1540 England, for example, right? You might think that the king is a terrible fucking person, but you can't say that. So I'm not going to, like, we can sit here and be like, oh, well, Billy Goat back in 1542 had a chance to renounce the king and he chose not to. Well, yeah, because that'd have been his ass. That's why he didn't do it, And I think so, like, when you look at, like, our forefathers, for example, and yes, they owned slaves, right? And this is going to sound ridiculous, and maybe it is to some degree, right? George Washington freed all his slaves upon his death, right? Then you had Thomas Jefferson, who actually not only had an affair with one of his slaves, but at least from what I read, he was actually in love with one of his slaves. I think it went past just the adultery part. And I'm sure that Thomas Jefferson, maybe he did free her at some point or something. And, I'm sure maybe George maybe had his feelings. But if you're George Washington, if you're Thomas Jefferson, right, you're figures, right, these super figures, I don't think it's as easy for them to just be like, hey, you know what? We don't need slaves anymore, and to just let your slaves go.
Well,
what would have been the response from society at that point?
If you grew up only knowing slaves around you, it's all you know.
That's another factor, sure.
You can't give like George Washington shit when every farmer back then had slaves, and all of a sudden he was like, and later in his life, he's like, you know what, we should really get rid of this. Because in their private writings, all the forefathers were like, this is wrong and it will go away, and what are we doing? Type of shit.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to say is just because you have some power and you might be in a position to do something doesn't always mean that that's the smart or the wise decision. Yes, it is a wise decision to remove slavery because fuck slavery, but at the same time, if that now resulted in the South being like, hey, yo, fuck you, and we don't even want to be part of your new country, we're going to go to war. You know what I'm saying? So it could have had some really bad ramifications, and the United States might not have been created in the way that it was. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we can debate it. But
there's like only certain times in history that certain things would have worked. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
People had to. I mean, I guess there's always people who were against slavery in the beginning, but it had to like become a thought that we can do this without it.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. I mean, you look at like the gay marriage thing that we were talking about earlier. You go back in the 90s and you go around on the street and you poll 100 people like, hey, are you okay with gay marriage? What do you think the results would have been? I would say probably half of the people, and again, I'm just alleging, I would say probably half the people or more were like, nah, gay people shouldn't get married. Fast forward, do the same poll in 2010. What do you come up with? You're going to get a drastically different polling result.
I'm not talking about like I guess you can use it.
I'm just using it as an example.
Think about like the feminist movement, right? Could you have had the feminist movement in 1750? No, because you lived on a farm and the man and the kids were outside farming and you were inside, and being a housewife back in the day is a hard fucking job.
It's always a hard job, I think.
In the house, you know what I mean? That's a fucking job that you don't get paid for.
Right.
So there's no way to have the feminist movement until women got more freedom to do things because technology advanced enough that you didn't have, like, you got a dishwasher, you know what I mean? You didn't have to spend your time. Being a housewife isn't the same in 2024. Being a housewife is not the same thing as in 1724 being a fucking housewife.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's true. It's much easier nowadays. You would have had to hand wash all of your laundry and shit back in the day.
You couldn't have had a feminist movement like that back then because it wouldn't have made any fucking sense. It just wouldn't have happened.
Well, I think you kind of made a good point. Like back then, again, we didn't have the tech that we have now. So everybody had to pitch in the household. So it's like, oh, the women were in the house. No, everybody was in the house. The kids, I'm sure, were, sweeping floors and doing whatever the hell they needed to do too, because everybody had to work together to make the family dynamic work. Go ahead.
Because before industrialization, everybody lived on, because you had to eat. So everyone farmed, right? And the more kids you have, the more free labor you have. And then eventually people aren't farming, you're working in a factory and you're fucking doing whatever. Kids now, instead of being an asset, become a burden because the kid costs money as opposed to the free labor.
So what do we do with them? What do you do with them?
With what?
Your kids. You send them to school. You let the government educate your children. So
that came later. But what I'm saying is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about feminism, right? Like the rise of feminism back in the 60s. Right?
As an example of something that could only happen at a certain time in history. Because there wouldn't have been no feminist movement back then.
That's true.
It only worked because all these other things happened first that allowed the feminist movement to happen. Good or bad, you know what I mean? Like it couldn't have happened before.
No, I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. You're right. Yeah, because again, like we were just saying, like you would need all hands on deck at that point to to make the household work. And who knows? There might have even been some man of the household back then was like, hey, honey, I would totally stay in the house because it's hot as fuck out today. So if you want to go do the fields, you can hop right on it and I'll fucking do the laundry and all the other shit that we got to do. So obviously that's a joke. But maybe that did happen. I don't know.
Awful joke.
What's that?
It was an awful joke.
It's the only kind I got, man. Just bad joke. You don't hear me. So I don't know, man. But yeah, you're right. You're right about that. It couldn't have taken place prior to when it did take place. The feminism movement is rather complex.
I don't even want to get into it because I don't want to start. I just use it as an example.
Heard. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's go back to do we have to? No, I guess not. But I mean, in great power politics, like you have as the state, you don't want your neighbors to be more powerful than you. So it's a natural part of, like, what are you going to do? Not build up so they can tell you what to do? Like, you almost have to.
I think that's a military way of thinking for sure.
It's not military. Say it's not military then. Like, they can economically output you. You know what I mean? Like, they can cut you off from trade deals and shit.
Well, obviously, the economic competition is a good thing. No,
power. I'm just saying, power's power, motherfucker. It has nothing to do with economics or military. It's how you use your power.
Okay.
So if you have a big ass army and you're the neighbor next door, and you're like, I don't want to build an army. That motherfucker can tell you what to do. So for your own safety, you have to build protection.
That would have been true before, but
true.
I don't think it's true now.
Okay, then what happens when someone else is bigger than you? Well, think of all the other shit. Think of all the other countries in the world right now that aren't us.
So how many nukes does Russia have?
Who cares?
Okay. How many nukes does the United States have?
Who cares? What's your
How
point?
many nukes does Iran have?
They can get one if they really wanted to. What's your point?
My point is simple.
It's expensive to have.
You don't need a massive military. You don't have to have tons of bombs. Nowadays, all you need to have is one nuke. Leave me the fuck alone, or I'm going to launch it at you. That's it. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, you would think so, but yet all this shit happens.
Well, this is all orchestrated. You know this. I don't have to explain it to you. You know, all this shit is orchestrated, and I think if I were building a nation right now and my neighbor was hostile,
orchestrated, Paul, but it's not a fucking symphony. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's not. It's not a well-oiled.
Powers are fighting each other at the same time. Yeah, there's some globalists and shit, but there's still a whole bunch of other fucking forces around.
Yes, no, I understand what you're saying, Jeffrey. What I'm saying is that, like, at the end of the day, if you live next door to China and China has way more people in the military than you don't have to equal their military force, right? Kim Jong-un has kind of made this kind of a thing, right? Like, obviously, we don't want him to have nukes, but
Like,
he
you're
does.
ignoring all of history. Like, why? It doesn't make any sense as a state, as a nation power. You don't want to be pushed around by other people.
Right.
So by saying I don't need to do this is kind of fucking ridiculous.
Well, I'm saying nowadays, why would you need to do that? Yeah, you're right. Back in the day, if we go back 100, 200 years, I mean, it's all how many tanks you got, how many, how many troops you got, whatever, how many horses you got, how many spears, how many whatever.
Okay, great. Then why don't we just have 10 submarines with nukes everywhere?
That's really all you'd need. You wouldn't even need the subs, to be honest with you. If you attack us, we're going to launch a nuke at you. Please don't fuck with us. We're a peaceful nation.
That's what the subs are for.
Sure. Well, yeah, if you nuclear sub, but you don't have to launch a nuclear sub from a nuke from a submarine. Sure. I mean, you can have that, but it's not necessary.
No, but if you want to, if your deterrent was nukes, all you would need is subs, because then no one knows where your nukes are. You can pop out whenever you want, and they're not in Montana that take pictures of every day.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fine. Now you have mobile nukes. Yeah.
The Brits don't even have nukes of their own. They use our nukes on their ships. So their subs come to American ports, and we put our nukes in their ships.
Well, again, I don't want anybody to have nukes. Again, I'm just trying to use this as an analogy. I would like to denuclearize the entire fucking globe. Just the way JFK wanted to. We'll pull out, you pull out.
Awesome. Let's go back to reality when it's not like that.
Okay. What's reality for you?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, Paul. The world we're living in right now, I'm talking about power politics.
Okay.
Don't do the Matrix shit right now. Let's try to live in what the hell's going on.
Okay.
So, like, Greeks, Romans, it's always happened. Mongols, Chinese, like, powers rise and they fight.
Mm-hmm. But again, you're comparing now at times to more primitive times, right? Like,
no, because every time before that was the modern time, and you're like, oh, because it couldn't happen back then, it couldn't happen back then, it couldn't happen back then.
Yeah, but it's entirely different, man. We're able to communicate across the globe, right? So before the Greeks and the Mongolians even go to war, now we can talk to each other. Hey, you know what? You're not such a bad guy. You're all right. I'm sorry.
They talked to each other back then. Instead of fighting the whole world, you just fought in Mesopotamia. You just fought the Greeks.
Yeah, but they didn't talk like we do now. They didn't have all of this, I think this is really... Go ahead.
Because the world was a little smaller. It was just happening everywhere. It just wasn't all connected. It's the same shit on a smaller scale.
So, again, they spoke, but not in the regard that you're saying that they spoke. Like, all Greeks weren't talking to all Persians during the Battle of Thermopylae. Yeah, Leonidas might have fucking talked to, what's his face?
What do you mean? What do you mean talking to? Like,
well, we have the opportunity to communicate now. That's what I'm saying.
They had diplomatic relations, fucko.
Yes, but only the select few people at the top were aware of them. Let me give you a different example, right? We were just talking about Putin before. We haven't talked to Putin. No, we don't. The only reason we have information about Putin is because it's been shared with us, right?
Okay.
So back in the day, they didn't have this tech. So if I go and I have a conversation with Putin 500 years ago, and Putin's like, hey, man, we really want to make peace.
Who are you? Who's you?
Make me whomever. Make me whomever. Doesn't matter.
Are you some leader of a country?
Sure. Make me the leader of fucking Paul Land, right?
Okay, you're a leader. Now you're a nation state.
So Paul Land, I really want to destroy Billy Goat Land, right? But so I sit down with you, and you're like, look, man, I'm not really trying to fight at all. I think we could do business together. And I'm like, nah, man, fuck you. I think I'm just going to kill you. Now, what I do is I go back and I tell all of my people, so I just went to Billy Goat Land. I tried to make peace with Billy Goat. Billy Goat said absolutely not. And he said that he's going to come over here in the next 6 months and kill us all. So I think we should just get the drop on him.
Okay.
You follow? So the narrative, right? So the narrative is collapsing now because we have all of this tech.
Is it really collapsing, Paul?
I think so. We're seeing it in real time. You don't think so?
Then our choices wouldn't be fucking Biden and Trump.
It's slowly collapsing, but it's collapsing, and I think it's gaining speed. If you disagree, that's okay. I mean,
I'm not disagreeing. It's just real politic, fucking logic. nation states act a certain way, and just because they don't have to doesn't mean they aren't going to.
Sure. I guess. You know.
And as a nation state, your number one concern is security, so you can stay in power of your little fucking nation state. So the last thing you can have is somebody else influencing your decisions. So you're going to get, even as a person, you don't want someone coercing you into doing shit. So even as a nation state, it kind of follows the same rules. You don't want to be coerced to do stuff you don't want to do, and to stop that from happening is you need to have leverage over somebody else.
So based on your ideology, right?
It's not my ideology, it's just the way shit is, but okay.
Sure, call it what we call it, whatever you want. So the way things are, if I have a handgun, or let me start simple. If I have a knife, and now my neighbor goes out and buys a sword, then I go get a handgun, then he goes and gets a grenade, then I go buy a rocket launcher, then he gets a tank. At what point does it stop? It doesn't stop. That's the point. This just continuously goes until we either fucking kill each other accidentally or intentionally.
Okay.
You know, it just doesn't end. That's not the answer. Yes, you want to protect yourself, right? But this is not this has not served us well doing what you're suggesting that we've been doing this entire time, whether it be by nature or
who well, Paul?
Humanity.
Yeah, but the humanity's not making decisions. The elites are making decisions.
They sure are.
They always have been. If it was kings and queens or leaders of villages, whatever the fuck, the elites were. All wars have been elite wars.
Yes.
And the people just fight them.
Yes.
So there's no evidence at all to think that things would change anytime soon when it's been the same repetitive system over and over and over again. No matter if it was Indian tribes beefing up with each other, tribes in wherever the fuck, or nation states.
I'll just simply say to that I think me and you have different information, right? We have different areas of interest, right? And trying to keep this realistic, I'm just going to concede the argument, and I'm going to let you run with this. But from some of the information that I know, it's totally possible, absolutely, that we can actually have world fucking peace. I know it sounds crazy, but
okay. So you're incapable of having two separate arguments, because there's one that the world argues about, and you're like, well, none of that shit matters because fucking aliens have unlimited energy.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have two separate conversations until the alien shit is fucking real. So until then, there's no reason to think that
it is real, bro.
No shit.
So why can't we include it in the conversation if you believe it's real, right? But we're not going to go there. Like I said, I will concede the conversation. You know, yes, you're everything that you said is correct, right? And if I omit some of the knowledge that I have in my brain, everything you just said is accurate. Yeah, we're just going to continue down this path where humanity does its thing, and we need security as the first option.
Right. The difference between my conversation and the conversation you think that we were supposed to be having at the same time is that my shit can be proven. We're still in the dark on all that other shit.
There's so much evidence. Can I prove it? No. There's so much evidence that if you're denying it at this point, you're on ostrich status. Just put your head in the sand. Anyway, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And, again, if we continue to go down this path, and if you remove some of the information that I have in my brain, right, then yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I'm done with you.
He's done with me. You threw up all over the floor, You can clean that shit up? No?
Yeah,
fine.
We're done. End the show before I fucking hang up on you. Goodbye.
All right. Peace, y'all.